How would you describe the Sydney food scene in your honest opinion?
Sydney and Melbourne, front runners, I guess.
On an international stage, I feel like we're up there. It's like traveling around the world without going literally like around the world, because like
Everything is trending that's not Australian.
Beyond just trying the food, it's forever fascinating me why certain venues stand out in a specific market like Sydney.
We found Sydney's
happiest meal in Australia.
what should I have for breakfast today?
Highly recommend you visit.
2024 Cafe of the Year.
Congratulations to have the feels. Happy feels.
How did Hasbulla find out the place and what did he order?
Massive stacks of pancakes were going out. McLovin muffins were going out. It was like a breakfast feast. I'm Chris, one of the co-owners with Jesse Orleans, and I'm front of house, Jesse's back of house. I think the Sydney food scene is great. I think it's, probably one of the top in the world.
Yeah.
You've got amazing produce. You can get almost anything. Like you can get amazing Chinese food, amazing Japanese or sashimi. You can go to a French bistro. You can come to a diner. So I think the Sydney food scene is very strong. I think Sydney and Melbourne, kind of front runners, I guess.
Yes.
I always describe the difference between Sydney and Melbourne is in Sydney you probably have to travel a lot far and wider to hit all the places you want to go. In Melbourne you can kind of find yourself in, I'm geographically challenged, but Fitzroy for example, and you're going to be able to probably hit 4 or 5 places on your list on foot. Whereas in Sydney, it's like, all right, I'm going to Happyfield, now I'm getting in the car and driving 40 minutes to Manly to go here, then I'm going back to Newtown to go there, and it's like everything's very spread out.
It's like traveling around the world without going literally like around the world, because like we have our own pockets of cities here, like Cabramatta and Marrickville are like Vietnamese food, and I love the fact that there's a separation. There's like northern Vietnamese food. I'm not sure if it's here, Marrickville or the Cabramatta one, but one of them is like more northern Vietnamese food and one is more south. And then we have your Bankstown area, which is like Middle Eastern, and I know we're far away from the motherland, which is like the Blacktown, Mount Druitt area, and I think it's a new like Filipino town. I think Marrickville is just becoming a lot more
There you go.
Filo-Viet.
Slowly taking over.
Yeah, well that's my campaign that I'm starting.
A piece of feedback I received from my report about Melbourne's scene is this. Melbourne has the best Caucasian and cafe food, but Sydney's ethnic food scene is better, before a keyboard debate broke out in the comments. Now I can't simply narrow it down to that one point to determine which scene is far more superior, but I do have 3 points in what makes a venue more memorable, subsequently elevating the food scene entirely. I'm a firm believer that sticking to a niche, especially in food, garners more attention and ultimately equates to a better product. A more diverse scene in culture and cuisine does mean a larger pool of unique concepts, breaking through the oversaturation of specific niches.
This is the type of food that makes me proud to be a Filipino.
My name is Kenneth and I own Tita Carinderia in Marrickville, and I also own Donut Papi in Marrickville as well.
So with Donut Papi, that's got no Philippine influence at all as much? Or?
It does. I think when people know or they found out that it's a Filipino owner, it's a Filipino donut shop.
Yeah.
But my intention was like, no, it's just like a donut shop that's diverse.
Yes.
I do like ube flavors, pandan.
Cool.
Our reflex there is always Filipino flavor.
Yeah.
We don't always do it because but the intention of Donut Papi is to explore the flavors of Asia and Philippines and outside of that.
Yeah. So fast forwarding to when you opened up Tita's then, what was the decision behind doing something that's completely Filipino food?
After Donut Papi, I wanted to open a Filipino food concept. I just didn't know what it is. And because I have this craving like every morning that there's no Filipino breakfast or Asian place that I can go to whenever I want to have like just Filo breakfast. You know? And so I was like, I know it's a little bit of niche, but like Filipino breakfast. But that's what kind of switched on my brain. I was like, I have to do it.
We used to send each other brekkie burgers and pancake stacks and all these different food ideas and be like, oh, have you seen this in LA, or have you seen this in New York? And eventually it was like, no one does this. Like, why don't we open a place that does this? And, you know, starts off just a casual conversation, and then things got serious, and didn't have rose-coloured glasses on. I knew we were going to give it like a very good crack. I had belief that we'd be, you know, one of the best offerings in the suburb in terms of like a full service experience cafe. There was a lot of cafes, but a lot of them were kind of smaller, or breakfast wasn't their main focus, or coffee was their main focus, where we were going to be a full food focused cafe. So I used to say I think we'll be the best, but I don't know if it'll be enough, because hospitality is so fickle that you can do everything right and tick all the boxes, but whether you've got a profitable business that keeps its doors open is a whole nother story, especially in 2024 and even in 2020. So yeah, I guess other people probably even had more belief in us than us in the industry. Good friend Phil, he was like, oh yeah, it's home run. Yeah, it's home run. He just keeps saying it's a home run. I'm like, shut up. And then we opened the doors on a Friday in October, in the middle of COVID. We had limited capacity, but within 15 minutes we were a full house and on a wait list for the whole day on a Friday.
And then first 15 minutes of opening.
Yeah, so we opened at like 7:28 because people were like ready to come in. And before 7:45 we had no seats left. I had a wait list printed on a clipboard just in case. Like, didn't think I was going to need it. So we were on the wait list for a whole day. Then Saturday even busier, Sunday even busier, and then Monday we were closed, thankfully. It gave us time to regroup, and then has never slowed down since. Yeah. We had a business plan, and we had all these, you know, goals on there and revenue targets and how you would run the business at this revenue mark and so on. And we hit the revenue mark we wanted to hit after 2 years in the first week.
That's unheard of.
Yeah, it's unheard of. So like we basically hit all our 6-month goals, 1-year goals, 2-year goals within like the first couple of months, which is crazy.
Right now, it is a copy of whatever food scene around the world is doing well. Honestly, like in the last 12 months, you could look overseas and you wouldn't need to look at the Sydney food market, and I could tell you what's going well overseas. Right. Raising Cane's, flat croissants, like everything is trending that's not Australian. Owned, operated, created. So I don't know if that's a representation of like a lack of creativity within Australia, or a better representation of how interconnected the whole world is. And so like we're literally seeing what is happening overseas and doing well overseas so quickly that we can like replicate and reproduce it overnight. But it feels to me as if the better venues are just better at copying what's trending than actually creating like original anything.
Before rushing to any conclusions, I believe there's a difference in bringing to the market something you miss or what you believe is missing and blatantly copying. There's diversity, then there's dupes.
We don't have Raising Cane's in Australia, but what we do have, Flappy's fried chicken in Penrith.
How does it make you feel about the Raising Cane's dupes and how you were kind of at the centre of it?
Sydney's Raising Cane dupe.
Raising Cane's in Melbourne.
The Perth dupe. Apparently New Zealand's dupe.
I think my biggest thing was, so right, when Flappy's, who were the business that like we started the trend with here in Sydney, right? Like they were around doing the exact same thing that they were doing for 2 years and no one gave a flying F. Like I could have walked through Sydney and said Flappy's, Louisiana fried chicken, Raising Cane's, no one cared. And then in the space of 2 weeks, it trends overseas. We introduce a large cup of sauce to exactly the same menu and publicly say it's Raising Cane's dupe. And it went viral overnight, like stupid levels of success when nothing else in the business changed.
Yeah.
So that shows me how bankable saying that something is a dupe of something else is, and why it's been like this cycle of just everything being a dupe of something else. Because actually doing something doesn't necessarily make it like a commodity. It's marketing that it's a dupe of something popular that is what people want.
I think there's a lot of trends at the moment A lot of people are jumping on trends and whatnot. We try to avoid it as best as we can. We try to just cook food that we like to eat, and it just happens that other people like that as well. There's a lot of, you know, home run hitters, our savoury stack, our good burger, our fish fillet, there's heaps.
Is there some correlation with the Macca's menu?
Definitely, people will tell you there is. It just kind of happened really organically. So if you asked us who our inspiration was when we opened, we would have named, you know, the likes of Egg Slut in Los Angeles or Holy Belly in Paris, and a list of places like that. We had our brand done, and it wasn't called Happyfield, it was called something else, but we had the pancake flipping logo, drippy, and it was a bit yellow. And then we found the Haberfield site, and pretty much instantly we're like, that name sucks, doesn't work, it's too commercial. So then my wife said Happyfield, and you know, after a month or two we're like, yep, Happyfield it is. So once we had Happyfield, then we ramped up the yellow, which we already had, and the happy puns, so happy, happier, happiest. The McLovin muffin wasn't originally going to be called the McLovin muffin. It was going to be called like the chicken sausage sanger muffin, which has no ring to it. I think
that's a lot longer.
It's a lot longer. So we had a draft menu like 2 years before we opened. So that's what it was called on the draft menu. And then maybe a week before we opened, I was reading out the menu on the phone to my wife, and we're upstairs. It's me, Jesse, and our head barista, which is our kind of first person we hired at the time. And she's like, what if you call it the McLovin muffin? We're like, no, that's like, stay away from that. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with Macca's. And then I asked the head barista, who's a bit straighty 180, I'm like, oh, what do you think of the McLovin muffin? He's like, I think it's great. And his last name actually had Mc in it, and it was McLeod. He's like, you can say you named it after me. And I was like, oh yeah, and it's, you know, big Superbad fans. So I was like, all right, the McLovin muffin, that just became super popular. And in one little section near the kitchen pass, it said, happiest meal served here. So like 2 months after we opened, and we put together that platter and we're trying to think of a name. And we already had, you know, the happy eggs, happier eggs, happiest eggs, happy platter. We're like, maybe we should call it the happiest meal. And it was already it was like part of our ethos already. So there it was, the happiest meal. I guess if you come and that's the only thing you get, you can kind of point the connections to, you know, a McDonald's inspired breakfast. But if you look through our whole menu, it's, you know, steak frites, salmon niçoise salad, salad à l'orange, cornbread, fish fillet, citrus bircher bowl, acai bowl, 12 different breakfast sides that can be done on a happy platter. So there's like one thing on the menu that can draw kind of connotations, and that just happens to be the most popular thing. So other people definitely draw that connection, and all the articles that have come out, most of them have had some type of link there, and you're not doing your own press releases and people are just organically writing about you. You can't really control the narrative, which is good and bad. Like, you know, it's all been very organic. But then sometimes it's like, oh, did they really have to mention Macca's that much?
And so it's like frustrating, but at the same time rewarding to know that. That's a small. Thank you, bro. Ooh. Oh, wait. Yeah, we're good now. We're good. Thank you.
I feel like it's people like you doing exactly what we just witnessed, is creating hype around places.
Hype, yes. Duplicates, no. We don't need duplicates. I think, you know when I realised that it's gone too far, but like, to me, a duplicate is a duplicate. So if you're trying to copy something, like, you copy it properly. When you start tagging stuff as duplicates, and it's like 40% of what it should be, is when like you've gone too far. It's like the whole cloning thing. Like, you can clone something once. How many times can you clone it before you like destroy the gene pool or bastardize the DNA? And so I think if you're gonna ever duplicate something, and this is for anyone, if you're gonna duplicate it and you duplicate it well, I tip my hat to you. If you duplicate it and you do it on the cheap, or you do it too fast because you're trying to rush, or you just cop out, but you still try and slap a tag on it that you've copied something or duplicated it, that's like, for me, that's just ruining OSPA.
I think what needs to come into question is why? Are you, as both Chris and Isaac alluded to, needing to make it obvious who you're copying? Lacking the confidence to attract new customers, you begin to dumb down your own marketing language? I mean, why does anyone open a restaurant? to cash in on an opportunity which ultimately does not equate to longevity in the industry, or with a desire to offer something that they're passionate about. Yeah, its influences could easily be traced, a dupe you may say, but the owners are also putting their unique spin on it. And that is true diversity.
I think the fact that it's diverse, people can literally start whatever they want here. And as long as it's like different, I think people would really like visit you. And
Yeah, cool.
Karen came up with the name because I was like, the Filipino breakfast or cafe that I wanted to do, I was like, oh, what? It's like an exciting stage where we're planning like what's the name and you know the concept and all that stuff. And Karen said like, oh, how about we name it with our Tita Marlene? She passed away 4 years ago.
Yeah, well.
Unexpectedly. So yeah, like and then thinking about her, and she's not like your typical Tita, that's why you can see it everywhere. It's her.
Yeah.
And we wish that all Titas that we know are like her, because there's this like culture in the fields where like the Titas, like the middle-aged women.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get canceled, but you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, we're like, why? Like, and my Tita is not like that. So it just kind of embodies with like everything. So like, why don't we make a concept based on her, and the food is like, you know, not your typical food. Like it's classic Filipino food, but we have our twist on it, but not too far from the original.
Yeah.
Like our generation's twist.
Yeah. I love that. I really believe there's this new generation of Filipinos that are getting into the hospo world or even the creative world and just doing something different.
Like since we opened, obviously there wasn't very many places serving traditional style Canadian pancakes or even chicken sausage muffins. Now there is. I think we're kind of a bit of a leader in that aspect.
How long do you want Happyfield to be here and the legacy you want it to leave?
Love it to be here forever. We just went to LA in November. People were asking about the food scene and whatnot, and I was like, oh, obviously Sydney's got a lot and you can get a bit of everything. One thing we don't have that they do have, they have like 100-year-old food institutions where that this place has been serving that sandwich for over 100 years or that French dip roll for well over 100 years, and it's got that authenticity to it. We've got like old pubs and whatnot. I think a lot of them, the building's old, but the business isn't old, so they've changed hands lots of times and whatnot. Whereas you go to these places and it's been in the family for 3 generations, and it's like so cool and so authentic. So love for this place to be here. 100 years, if possible, it would be amazing.
That's exciting that you want to do that.
Yeah, it'd be cool.